So hello, everyone. Welcome to the Female Directors Panel for the Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival 2021. My name is Violet. I am one of the festival producers for the festival this year, and I am introducing this panel. Thank you for joining us. And I'll just go ahead and hand it over to our friend in Women in Film in New England, Alecia. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much, Violet. So I'm Alecia Orsini. I'm the president of Women in Film and Video of New England. I am so excited to talk to these directors tonight. So we're going to go right around the room, and I'm going to start with Gina Rose.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Gina Rose. I'm a writer and filmmaker from Oakland, California. I'm really excited to be here and also kind of nervous. This is my first director's panel that I've ever done. So thank you guys for inviting me so much. I stutter, so you might be hearing some like pauses and repetitions when I talk, but don't worry, I'm not having a stroke. It's not your Zoom glitching. It's just the way that I talk sometimes. So thank you for listening. And yeah, I'm just really happy to be here. I wrote and directed a movie called I Can't Sleep, which is in the SciFi Film Festival, and I'm really excited to have it there. So thank you for having me here.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Gina. Well, now I'm going to come down to Virginia. Virginia, tell us all about yourself.
Hi, my name is Virginia Abramovich. I'm the co-writer, director, and co-producer of Between Waves. Yeah. And I'm excited to be at the festival to have my film play. This is the first genre festival that it's playing at, so that's exciting.
Great. Thanks for being here. And then Karen Lamb.
Hi, I'm Karen Lamb. I'm from Vancouver, Canada, British Columbia, Canada. My feature is The Curse of Willow Song, and yeah, I'm just really, thank you so much for inviting us, and I really wish we were in Boston. Anyway, I haven't gone anywhere for years, it feels like. Years.
It has felt like years, but we're really glad that you're all here with us virtually and that we still get to experience your work and your films. So I want to talk a little bit, first give the audience a primer on what they can expect when they see the film. They may have already seen it at this point, we're not sure, but for those that you want to entice to come and see your film, let's give them the elevator pitch on why they should go watch it. So Gina, I'm putting you on the hot spot first.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so my movie is called I Can't Sleep, and the tagline, what I always share with people is, a young writer struggles to complete her science fiction story while battling supernatural forces in real life.
I like it. And Virginia, give us a bit about your film.
Okay, so it's a feature film that's shot in Toronto and the Azores, in an island called San Miguel in Portugal. So that's already pretty awesome that it's in the Azores. And it's a love thriller about a woman's pursuit to join her missing lover by crossing into a parallel universe.
Okay. And excuse me, Karen.
Yeah, it's how do I put it? Sorry, that sounds terrible. It is a film about a young woman who's just been released from prison, and she ends up in a warehouse, just trying to get away from her crime family. And she may or may not have abilities that are sort of the supernatural sort. And yeah, so basically, girl in haunted warehouse, or is she haunting the warehouse? And just as a note, it is shot in black and white, but it's a tribute to Japanese horror, which is what I was really inspired by. So 60s, sort of that Qui-Gon and all of those sort of old samurai Janus horror films that I love.
Well, I wanted to talk about what kind of inspired all of you, not even just for the films, but for becoming a director. What led you to your film life? So actually, Karen, maybe you can start with that since you started talking a little bit about it.
I mean, it's been such a long circuit. I feel like a cockroach. Like, the reason I've been in the industry is that I've refused to die. But I've been working in film since my 20s, and I'm not 20, so there we go. But I started as an entertainment lawyer, and I moved into producing, and now I'm at that point where I've been a writer director longer than I've actually done the other things. So I love that milestone, where it's like, yes, I'm past that gate. But Asian horror has always been a huge, I guess, just again, the influence for me. And I love going back to old pieces and finding my inspiration there. So literature and old movies is what inspires me.
I love it. Virginia, where did you find your inspiration, but also how did you end up coming to the film world?
Again, I feel like Karen, I've been at it for a long time, probably over 20 years. And I started, I started in the AD department. So I did a lot of ADing probably for about 8 years. And I also line produced, coordinated. I've done a lot of different things. And then I had kids, took some time off. And then when I came back, I said, okay, and I always made films on the side, like my short films and different things. And I said, when I'm coming back into the industry, I want to like come back as a director. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Like, whatever. I had a 9-to-5 job. I had so it's like kind of thing. Like either if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this and just pursue what I wanted to do from the beginning. So sort of my I feel like there's been like part A and part B of my life. So after, and it was a long time, like I wound up, I was going to take a year off, have my daughter, and 8 years later, I'm coming back to the industry going, okay, I'm ready now. So I went back to, I did my director's residency at the Canadian Film Center, which is kind of like, I don't know, a lot of people kind of, it's also, the really nice thing is you get to make films for 6 months nonstop. So that was a very awesome experience. And then slowly I've been directing like kids television, and like slowly making some shorts, and finally got some funding to direct Between Waves, put in some of my own money, got a lot of favors, a lot of really awesome generosity from the film community, and a lot of good people that came together on this project. And and so I'm here. And then since I made the film, I've gotten a chance to direct some feature films, so that's been really nice, and actually get paid for it finally.
It's a good pay.
That's like, it's still, and I'm still like trying to figure all this out. But yeah, the first film when I decided I wanted to be a director was when I saw Videodrome by David Cronenberg. And it just like blew my mind, like literally that like just blew my mind. And I was like, whoa, I can make this. Okay. I want to be a director. So I've always like been a huge sci-fi, genre film person. So yeah, thank you.
That's you. Yeah, that's great. So Gina, where and how did you come to the film world?
Yeah. Okay. So my father was a TV writer, producer, director for many years. And so I kind of grew up watching him do projects. I would come visit him on set and stuff like that. But when I was little, I didn't have an interest in that kind of thing. I was more interested in becoming a writer. And then something weird happened where when I was 13 in 8th grade, my dad let me take a week off school, which I love to take it off. And he let me work as a production assistant on one of his projects. And I had a great time. I had like a wonderful experience. And I kind of got to watch him work more. And I was older by then. And I thought, I think I kind of like this. And then after that, I started taking screenwriting courses. I remember I took a summer school screenwriting course when I was in like 10th grade. And my high school had a film and video elective that they offered. So I learned how to edit on Final Cut Pro. This is in like, the early 2000s or so. And I started making my own little movies from that point on. Around 15, I made documentaries, I made music videos and things like that. And then I got to college, and I wanted to major in film. My parents weren't really for it, but I just still had that like really strong interest. So I interned at like Sundance Channel. That was fun because I went to college in New York City. And I ended up majoring in psychology and actually pursuing that as my track in terms of like my actual career. But I still was making movies on the side. I was writing a ton. I couldn't really let go of my love for filmmaking. And I took a couple of film courses too in college. And so, yeah, after a while, I was really far into my mental health career, and I was starting to make some more money because I was struggling at first. I went to school for many years, and I had to do all this training, and I was finally starting to make some more money a few years ago, and I still wanted to make a movie. Like, my dream was to make a feature film. In fact, to make multiple feature films. So I started reading about micro-budget filmmaking, and I heard about this one movie called Frisky that was made here in the Bay Area for $5,000. And I just became obsessed with it, and I was reading everything I could and like listening to all the podcasts by the director. And I decided, well, maybe I could do this now that I'm, working so much. I decided to save $10,000, and it took me a year. I was working 2 jobs. And I just saved it, and I wrote the script knowing that I would have some, limitations, but also kind of factoring that in. And a year after I started saving, we started filming on November 1st, 2018, and we filmed in about 2-3 weeks total. Really quickly, I had to take some time off from my jobs and do that. And yeah, it finally got finished, and here I am.
I think it's impressive. I don't know if anybody said, I'm gonna sit down and save 10 grand or maybe $500.
Yeah, I know.
That's vision to be able to say, no, I see it and I can do it. I can make it happen. So that's really great. I'm wondering for all of you, what is the best part about directing for you? And I know some of you have, sometimes it's in the writing, maybe you have your hands somewhere else in a part of the crew in the film, but really, what is it about directing that draws you to it? And Victoria, I'm gonna, Virginia, I'm terrible. Virginia, I'm gonna put you on the hot seat for that one.
Do you specifically mean like directing in general or directing my own work?
Well, in general, like why pursue the director's seat as opposed to pursuing the producer's seat?
Right. I can't imagine a funner job on set. I really enjoy it. I have such a blast directing, and like just seeing the script in my mind's eye, if it's something that I'm creating like from the beginning, so that I'm, if I'm writing it and then getting to make it, it's such a well, it is an absolute privilege, I think, because it is a privileged position to be able to tell your story. So as much as like it's awesome, I really I enjoy it. I enjoy like in film, it's the creative collaboration, right? So I really enjoy the process. I enjoy the process of filmmaking, like the whole thing from the beginning to the end. I love the edit suite. I love, when you go into color and you're like, oh my God, this is just getting so awesome. And, or the mix and everything, like, it's just such a, I don't know, it's such a magical thing. And to be able to create and make your own story, or tell somebody else's story, but tell it through the way you imagine it. And the more I do it, sometimes I think, oh, I'm not going to run out of ideas, but it's funny. It's the more I do it, it's like a muscle. Like the more I become like inspired and better at it. And it's also like about judging your creative gut. So I feel like I'm getting really like I've got to this place now where I'm like, yeah, like I listen to that, and that's like my little thing where if I honor my creative, what my gut is telling me, and that instinct, and then anyways, so yeah, so there's many things that I enjoy, and the film industry is awesome. Like it has such good people. I'm very, very lucky.
Well, just to kind of follow up on what you're saying, with the excitement of it all, with between waves, you're trucking everybody from Toronto to the Azores. What were some of the? I mean, a lot of that's exciting, but it comes with its challenges. So, just speak a little bit to what was it like to direct this film?
Well, so the Azores have been like this obsession for. Okay, my husband's father's side of the family is from the island, so I've gone there a few times. So it wasn't like a strange place that I've never been to. I actually like became this thing where I was like, I want to tell a story here. It's the most beautiful place I know of. Like, I'm sure there's other really awesome places. It's, for me, was like, this is like it's really, and it helped me heal and work through things. And I felt I wanted to tell the story of this character that's dealing with, she's dealing with loss and grief and guilt, potentially mental illness, depending how you want to you want to interpret the story. So yeah, so the question was, I'm sorry, I'm so weird off from the question. What was the challenge of going there was the island didn't even have apple boxes. So we had to bring everything there was some really awesome help and people on the island that really helped us make this film. We could never have done it without them. But we had to, we got, you can get sandbags that actually have zippers on them. So it's just material and they have zippers. I didn't even know that. And my producer went there ahead of time, and he actually went with his wife and his kids and sent me like pictures, because he was like setting things up, of his kids digging sand and putting it in, and he's like, yeah, they've joined the grip department.
That's amazing.
But at the same time, it was like magical, because like for the crew, it was a very small crew when we were on the island. Like at our leanest, we were like 13 people. So just like one grip electric, like a DP, like 3 people camera team.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's,
no, 2 people camera. We had the first and second AC. That's it. The person that recorded the sound also mixed it and flew the drone.
Wow.
So it was just like everyone was like multitasking. That's why I'm very fortunate, because I had so many really awesome professionals that were my DP I filmed for over 20 years with. So it just felt like I was in this really great supported community, like the costume designer, the hair and makeup person, like with all these people that I made my very first film with.
Yeah.
Second film with. And so in a way, it was my way of sharing the island with them too.
Yeah.
Because, and it was work, like we worked hard, but we also had a very good time. It was really,
and as long as you're having fun, right?
I that's my motto on set. Like it's all about the energy, because I think it comes through.
Right. I love that. Karen, let's talk about what brought you to the director's chair.
Oh, failing upward. That's what it is, failing upwards. So no, I was a producer for years, and it's interesting because it's like a dog that leaves a room, and I'm like, what room, right? Like, where? So when I'm doing each of the jobs, I kind of forget about the other job that I used to do. So as a producer, when you're selling something, you're raising money, you're in sales mode. So that's, that's going from market to market in the olden days, and, basically trying to sell territories and try to raise financing for your films. And then, and when you're actually producing on set, it's whack-a-mole. Stuff is coming up and you're just whacking it back down like just, oh God, like whatever is happening. You're just trying to bat it out of your batting cage wherever you can. As a writer, like there's this thing where it's your project at that point. You're not even thinking of going on set, which is my problem. Like, so when I write something like exterior, night, forest, I forget yours truly has to be in exterior, night, forest at some point, like, and I was like, okay, next time, self, interior, day, art gallery. You know what I mean? Like, why can't it be somewhere where you enjoy it rather than, yeah, in when you're sitting there in your computer by yourself, you're like, yeah, exterior, night, all exterior nights. What was I thinking? Like, there's always a point where you're on set. Wow. It's 4 a.m. You're in a parking lot of some sort. Everyone's in their high-vis vest. Everyone's slow. It's raining. And you're thinking to yourself, what idiot wrote this, right? Like, why are we all here? This is terrible. I'm cold. I want to go to bed. So there are those moments. But the actual directing, I think maybe because I started as a producer for so many years, I love the directing because in a lot of ways it's like creating safe spaces for my team. Like, so it's top down, right? So your attitude means everything. And so I've babysat so many terrible directors in my long career. It was almost like, oh, surely we can do this better. I know that's a slightly horrible thing to say, but I think in a lot of ways it is about, there's this magic moment where you wrote it, it's sort of there, but what the crew is bringing and what the cast is bringing and everything is not what's in your head, but it's so much better. And you just recognize that moment and you're like, not touching this. You know what I mean? This magic has nothing to do with me, and yet it's there because you let it, like you created a space for that magic to happen. And that's when you have the chills and you're like, yeah, this is that moment, like it might not even be something you planned. There's a scene in the Curse of Willow song where we had it all blocked out. It was this huge, like, it was a confrontation scene. She's in a coma, her sister, brother, like, it's just this long discussion is happening, and I had it all blocked out. And then we did the reverse on her, and she's in the coma, but the words are landing on her, and she just starts to cry. And I was like, I am not touching this scene. I'm leaving it as a oneer. You just know that the moment, it was not scripted. It wasn't written like that. We didn't block it that way. Her performance is what actually made me go, okay, just, like, and everyone standing behind the monitor with me, literally everyone just held their breath, and you're like, don't touch it. You know what I mean? That's the magic that you're looking for. So all the other stuff you're doing, you plan, you do whatever it is, that's your job as a director, but it's, more importantly, it's just recognizing those little moments of magic. And I think that to me is what keeps me going.
I'm looking at I was on your website looking at some of the background, and you've got some great pictures in a warehouse, and I'm thinking about your writing, and you're saying like, oh, how did I write myself into this warehouse, or what did I do? But even just it being a black and white film, you're almost thrust into those performances a little bit more, where you really, probably as a director, you are looking for those magic moments.
It was so different directing in black and white, which I hadn't done before, because all of a sudden it isn't like your monitor already looks different than what your reality is. So you look at the monitor, and we had it all set up so that it was kind of what we saw was what we were going to get. And the lighting was everything. All of a sudden you could do hard angles. You could do, like, your framing became everything. That performance, those faces, everything became like, wow. And so I was thinking to myself, I'm never going back to color. Don't worry, I am going back to color. But, there's that moment where I was like, that is amazing, because, all of a sudden you're looking at texture and framing in a totally different way than you would, again, when you've got color and you've got a palette and you've got things that you're working with. It's very different than we're now down to, like, just basically many shades of gray, not 50, maybe more. So
I love that. That's wonderful. Gina, so tell us how, of course, we know that you got into the director's seat because you said, I'm going to raise the money. I'm going to do it. This is where I am. What have you found that you love about having to captain the ship?
Yes, I think that directing, whether it's conscious or unconscious, I think it's a way for me to have a voice. And I think that I got to a place where I fell in love with movies and films and storytelling via the film medium in particular, from just kind of feeling like an outsider a lot of my life. And I think, part of that is being like multiracial. I am Black and Chinese American. I think it's having a non-apparent disability. In the past, I used to hide my stuttering a ton, and I think it impacted how I showed up in the world, how I showed up with people and relationships and things like that. And I always felt like a part of myself was hiding in a way. And I think that making films, though, was this really strong desire. And so being able to captain the ship, it's like everyone's looking to you. They want to know what you have to say. They want to know what you want. And you can't just be like, I don't know, like, just like, figure it out yourself. I don't care. You have to take that stance. And actually through the process of making this film, I realized that that's something that I struggled with. And I loved it, though, because it forced me to say, this is what I want. And I had pushback too, and I had to push through the pushback. And I think that it's just about creating a voice, kind of like, Karen said, like, creating this safe space where you can tell this story that you then share with people. And I also agree with what Virginia said about working with, really professional people really helps with that too, who are supporting you and want that as well. So I think, being able to, I think there's just something really cathartic also about being able to create what's been in your mind's eye for so long. Like if you sat down to start writing that, it's a very weird feeling. It's very jarring. It's really exciting. It's emotional. But yeah, it also involves other people, and it's like this like mixed product that comes out from all these people working together. Which is, I agree, where the magic happens, definitely, and wanting to bring other people into that world and that safe space, and we can create something together. That's what I always want to, like, I want the process of, making the film to be fun. I think it should be fun. It's not always fun, obviously, but I think it should be fun, and it has the power to bring people together if they want that. And, so I think I just love the idea also of like, bringing a family together to make something together, and also being able to express my voice in that process and build that muscle up too. It's been really awesome.
It absolutely takes a village, right?
Totally. And a million miracles.
And something that you said, though, is finding your voice. And I think, just acknowledging that we are all women here, often it is hard to be really confident in a choice, especially when it's artistic. I've certainly experienced being questioned on set, even when you're the head of the ship and you feel like the people around you have your back, but then suddenly in an instance, they don't, for whatever reason it is. So how, and just, I'll come back to you, Gina, because you struck the chord in my mind, how did you come to that place where you're like, no, this is the right decision and we are doing it this way?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I mean, so I approached this film being my first feature film that I made, and I had a crew and everything, as a real learning experience. And definitely everyone wants to tell you what to do, and so I kind of had to walk that line between like, okay, well, this is a learning experience for me. I'm open to feedback, but at the end of the day, like, I want to make this fit the vision that I had, and I want to make this for the reasons that I started this whole journey. So I think if anything, because I definitely had lots of challenges making this film. I had setbacks, as all films do. And the fact that I pushed through it, it's interesting because the story of I Can't Sleep is this writer who can't finish stories, and I've definitely had that problem. And it's kind of like if you don't finish it, you don't have to show it to anybody, and you don't have to be judged, and you don't have to put yourself out there. And I went through many challenges making this movie, but there was something in me that wouldn't stop. Like, I had to be very resilient. I had to really dig deep into that and push, and I had to push for months and to make this happen. And I think that through it all, in a strange way, even though there were setbacks and scary moments and tough moments, like, I came out a bit more confident in terms of like, don't necessarily listen to other people. Basically, I was like, make it weird, make it what you want, because that's you. Like that's where the authenticity lies, and that's what people will connect with. So kind of having to push through opposition brought me, I think, in touch with my voice, and I feel more confident now. Like, I think my next movie is going to be even weirder and more out there, and I can't wait because that's what I'm here for.
If you're not weird, we're not interested.
Exactly. Who cares about normal people? They're boring.
Virginia, tell us a little bit about how you defend your voice as a director, whether with Between Waves or earlier in your career.
I think one way I defend my voice when if I have the choice of my crew, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you come into a show and you're working with who you work with, and that's you just have to deal with that. Is first of all, that's my first way of defending, is just having people that respect me, that know me, that I know them, and we've got like a language that we understand each other already. And that's like it's what Gina was saying about the family. Like that's one way, because my style of directing is not, I'm not loud, I'm not like, I'm not I don't like to create stress. I'm not freaking out. I actually like to calm down when things are freaking out and bring the energy in, and there's some people that don't respect that. It's true. Like I had I had a situation on set, and I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but I had somebody, a guy, of course, standing over my head yelling, giving directions it was directing a kid that was not doing the right things, and I just thought, oh my God, like I'm the one trying to direct this, this, and it was just like, and so you do like sometimes that's taken as, I think, as weakness, because it's not, and you just have to, and the way that you, I guess, prove yourself is by having a clarity and vision, and knowing what you want to do, and sometimes being firm, like sometimes being like, yeah, thank you everybody for all your, like I'm sure Gina, you experience this too. Like everyone's got it, like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, we do that. It's like, okay, thank you everybody. I appreciate this, but we're going to do it this way. And so so clarity, I think is another thing, but yeah, and mutual respect, because if you respect other people, and you give them, and you give them the opportunity to explain themselves or to try something, then people really respect you, and they'll go a really long way to try something, or try to, make something work, or whatever it is, when there's a mutual respect. So I think that's a big key in that one as well. And I feel like I'm going on and on. So
no, I think it's fabulous advice. And hopefully some of the young directors that are watching this are going to be thinking, and other crew members are going to be thinking about these things. Karen, you've got a background as being an entertainment lawyer, so I'm sure holding your ground is something you're familiar with. But tell me about it from a creative standpoint as a director.
I think that a lot of people, when you start directing, think that it's a creative job, and it is. But so much of our job is also managerial, and I think that we forget about that. And sometimes with our young directors, we forget in some ways they'd be better off, as a lawyer. I actually went through a lot of management training. I was in, I was a suit for many years. And so there's a lot of like speaking in court, in times of conflict and that sort of thing. But what I've noticed from I guess years of also producing is that it's very quick to lose a crew. I had on one of my first shows, I was a producer on a TV series, And the director was new, and by noon, my crew was mutinying. They literally were coming into the office and everyone wanted to quit after 3 weeks. And a lot of that is, it's almost like setting that confidence. And yes, we, as all of us, as directors, you want to, be firm, have your ground in that. But the crew is looking at you over and over again, especially in the first few hours, to set the tone of what's going to happen. So I always work with my first AD and that. So we actually have a really easy first day. I need to show the crew that I can make my day really easily, that I don't do a complicated shot first off, for God's sake, that is not your time to do whatever it is. It's almost like bang off a few of these quick things. They feel comfortable that you're not making stupid decisions and that you're keeping everything going. And that confidence is actually earned in a lot of ways. Like, you don't walk in necessarily expecting that respect, but you earn it because every decision you make actually cuts time, and that they're smart decisions, and they're decisions that you're there with your crew. Like, I know some directors, and that's, again, I have my own little things, which is I don't like sitting behind a monitor. So God help you all, I'm an Energizer bunny. So we're all standing behind the monitor. It's kind of like, well, now in COVID days, it's weirder. But, it's almost like I want to be able to, in between takes, run out to set, make, have my conversations and that sort of stuff, and be right there. I don't want a middleman actually doing that. It actually drives first ADs absolutely bonkers. I hate actually going through people because I want to be able to just kind of run out and do what I need to do. And so a lot of that is, some people go back and, they're prepping and stuff. I spend a lot of time even just watching people set up things. And if I'm seeing something that is like, oh my God, that shot's not going to work this way, I'll hopefully come up with something quicker. So you're working with your production designer. And in some cases, they had something totally different setup, and I was like, we can shoot through plastic. And they were like, yeah, okay, Home Depot is just down there, let's go grab some plastic and it'll actually give a really cool effect. And we saved, I don't know how much money and time. Like, we cut off half of our day for this one trip to like Home Depot and got some painting cloths and did what I wanted to do. And it was because it was like a quick decision, because I was there on set and I was actually watching it, and I wasn't sitting in my trailer, not that I have a trailer, but you know what I mean, like thinking my deep director thoughts. You're there with your team, and a lot of that is just being with them. And by the end, it's almost like the respect is kind of going both ways, because you've earned it, you've been there, you're listening to everyone, you're seeing what's going on, what's taking the shot so long. Well, you're standing in the rain with them, so you know what's taking that shot so long. Like it's seeing that you're not that princess on set. You know what I mean? Like, I always think, like, I may look like a racehorse, but I'm a Clydesdale. So honestly, I've been there with all of you. And so it is that, how do we create that safety, and how do we, and so by that point, it's almost like it's not that your creativity is questioned, but they feel like you've got each other. Everyone's got each other's backs, like you're kind of like, yeah, we're family at this point. And I think that's the aim anyway. So we've had cruddy days as well. Absolutely. There's always that moment where it's like, and actually that's another thing too. When you see someone who, like, no matter how professional they are, and sometimes on lower budgets, we have to use who we have to use, like you kind of like, okay, it's really busy in your town, everyone's gone and here's this person. But if there's someone causing a problem for everyone else, they're gone. I'm sorry. I will operate that stupid boom mic if that person is actually going to be a problem. You know what I mean? Like, it's that sort of protection of your family, because you get that one bad apple and they're doing whatever it is. I'm sorry. Bye. It's nice knowing you. Because that attitude, you have however many days to shoot this thing. You do not have time to coddle someone who is just going to be a burr under your, standing there going, is that what you really wanted? It's the last thing you want, sitting right behind you on a, like that naysaying just gets, and it actually, it undercuts what everyone else is doing. So almost not being scared to fire the occasional person, especially when everyone's feeling it, it's part of your protection of your crew.
Well, there's no HR on set, right? So so it's something that I love the point that you made, because you're building the trust, you're building a group, you're building that family, much like Gina said. It's nice to hear the strategies as well from all of you. I want to switch gears just slightly and talk about sci-fi. What brings you to the genre of sci-fi? And this is maybe also an area where I think the perception is that women are breaking in. We've always been here. So just what made what made you want to jump into, this sort of genre? So Virginia, I'm going to come to you first. Why sci-fi?
I was a sci-fi nerd since I was a teen, like early teens. When I really got into reading, I was like, that's what I was just reading, like Isaac Asimov and like all that stuff. I was just like, so that was my like. So I've always been reading sci-fi, watching Star Trek, Star Wars. Like, I don't know, like it's just I don't know, something about sci-fi is always like. I think part of the reason I'm and because as I get like older, I'd like start to analyze it more. And I think what's kind of cool about sci-fi is it takes you outside of your world, or it's kind of like, when you go traveling, and you're like, oh my God, I could see my life now. Right, like you get this clarity because you're able to step out of your little your little zone. And I feel what sci-fi does is it gives us a chance to step out of our space and look at ourselves. That's, I think, the most interesting kind of sci-fi, where we could actually look at our reality, but do it through this like microcosm of this sci-fi world. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it's always like, it's funny because the script that I had written and had won, like almost got funded, and several times went through, like, was this actually family around a dinner table, which was way more shootable and all that stuff. And everybody said, don't make your first feature a sci-fi. I'm sure you guys have heard that as well. So we're making a genre film, like people, make it really simple. And it's funny that never went through, like, but it just was always meant to be, I guess. That's what came through.
Meant to be for you. Gina, what about for you?
Interestingly enough, I was never a big sci-fi person. My best friend since 5th grade, who I'm still best friends with, obsessed with sci-fi, like Star Trek. Went to the X-Files convention with her one time. Had to tape tons of episodes of like Battlestar Galactica for stuff like that. But I was never a huge sci-fi person myself. I think that it's interesting that I ended up making kind of a sci-fi movie for that reason. And I think the original idea came from just the idea of what would it be like if we knew aliens were landing tonight, and how would just a normal person going about their day respond to something like that, knowing that this big thing is about to happen to them. And I also kind of like the idea, in the film, people are just kind of some people care, some people don't. Some people think it's going to change their lives. Some people are just like, oh, it's just one more thing that we're all going to live through. It's not going to change anything. And I think that's the angle that I really connected to the story with, and this extraordinary thing happening, but we're just living in this ordinary world waiting for it to happen. And I think that's pretty much how I connected to it. But yeah.
And you went ahead and you made your first film.
I know, of all the things.
Film. break the norm. Karen, how about yourself?
It's funny because I do genre period. So it's horror. If there's science fiction, if there's fantasy. I just don't like the real world all that much, to be honest. It's not all that exciting. But also, I think that the idea is that speculative fiction of all sorts. And so, when I think of some of my favorite films like Alien, it's a horror film, but in space. And so it's always that mix of things that I really love. I love when it's not one thing. And, I'm not a drama person, unless something's going to explode from your chest cavity. I'm like, I'm interested, but not really. I remember I got interviewed for a for a Christmas movie with puppies. I was like, do the puppies live? And I didn't get the job. Anyway, that was problematic. Apparently that's not a good answer. But you know, for me with science fiction, it's like how we see the world, how little we actually know is it's just based on, you know, like I believe obviously in science. You know, if the pandemic has taught me anything, I believe in science. But there's also so much that we don't know. And so I love that as a place for exploring story, it's all those unknown creases, you know, like how do we know that this is what it actually is? We don't. And I think that to me is the magic part of it, you know, like, and it's not only unknown, it's horrifying. That's so Lovecraft, you know, like it's the unknown and it's terrible. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. That's not funny.
No, but there is something to that you get to explore. The unknown is terrifying, and so when you get to explore that's really interesting. Okay, so I have to ask this question, and you can say one, other, or both. It's gonna be rapid fire. Okay, Gina, Star Wars or Star Trek or both?
Star Wars.
Okay. Virginia, Star Wars, Star Trek, or both?
Star Trek.
Okay.
No
Karen.
question.
Star Trek.
Star Trek. Okay, now that, you know, because I know the audience is sitting there dying to know that answer. So now that we've got that out of the way, I should have
Not
thrown.
just that, Deep Space Nine. I'm that person.
Yeah,
That's just sad story.
I'm watching the newest one where the main character's name is Michael, where it's like pre Next Generation, pre first. Oh my gosh, this is a whole nother panel, you guys. I mean, we could have also gone, you know, Firefly or Doctor Who. Anyway, Torchwood. All right. No. Back to directing. So I want to get we've had a lot of good advice, but I want to talk a little bit more about, you know, just some other good pieces of advice for our young filmmakers that are watching. Well, first of all, of your favorite films that inspire you, what kind of things as a director, because, you know, a director, writer, somebody who does film, you know, my husband and I often joke that because we're in the industry, we have ruined watching for us. So if we can really, disappear into the story of a film or whatever it is we're watching, we're in a good place. We feel it's got a little higher quality. So how do you watch? What do you watch? What inspires you? Who's making stuff right now that really is getting you going, that is like jazzing you up for your next thing? I know I dumped in a lot of stuff right there. Karen.
Oh no. It's like, what are you watching?
What are you watching these days that inspires you?
I mean, I watch a lot of true crime, to be honest, and I work true crime too. So there's I love those HBO true crime things, just because I don't love the Netflix true crime. I love HBO true crime because usually they take it from a different angle. And so I watched the Michelle McNamara I'll Be Gone in the Dark, you know, and it's just I read the book, and of course I'm always inspired by that. But yeah, that's sort of where my pandemic watching has gone to, which is true crime. It's like, well, like my head could be in, you know, various dumpsters, so I'm happy where I am, right? I'm intact. I'm not.
That's absolutely.
Like disemboweled, so I feel good. It's
there you go, true crime. Gina, what are you watching these days that inspires you?
Oh, geez. Well, you know, okay. So the movie that really inspired me to, you know, pursue film also, in addition to, you know, my experiences, was Rushmore by Wes Anderson. I just fell in love with that movie. I was 14 and I totally was just like, this is my movie. I was obsessed. And I couldn't wait for his next movies to come out. And I remember waiting for The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou to come out for, like, it felt like years. And I was like, and then it finally came out. On the day it came out, I went there and I went to the theater with my friends, and I hated that movie. And I was like, oh no, what happened? And what is so weird is that recently it was on like Hulu or something again. I hadn't seen it since it had first come out. And I watched it again. And I remember him saying at the time that the movie came out that this was a movie about making movies. And I watched it again and I was like, oh, I kind of appreciate this in a different way now. I feel like he's really shining a light on how, hard it is and how much you like deal with. But I feel like I couldn't have appreciated that when it first came out because I hadn't made this film yet. So that was kind of a weird thing that happened to me. But aside from that, let me see, I'm just going to be really real and say that I love reality TV. I will say it. I love analyzing people because that's my, mental health thing. So I'm just watching and like analyzing. And my favorite is 90 Day Fiancé and all the spinoffs. So that's what, I'm sorry, everybody watching this. But I love 90 Day Fiancé because I just love the psychological aspects of watching things like that. And I, know it's fake and I know it's, very heavily edited, but the kind of like human incentives and dynamics are just endlessly fascinating to me. So if I'm being real, that's what I watch these days.
There's the rubbernecking of it, but you're right. It's watching these human interactions.
Yes.
And why were these choices made? But of course, yeah. Another panel.
Toxic human interaction is always interesting. So, yeah.
Virginia, what are you watching that inspires you?
A director that I'm really inspired by right now is Jean-Marc Vallée. Sharp Objects and Pretty Little Liars. Am I saying it right? No, I don't know. Anyways, but I just love the way he shoots, and it's so and the characters that he has, the way he just his storytelling is really awesome. So I find like and then the thing that I really enjoyed recently that I watched was Dark. That was very cool on Netflix. Really.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's
fun. But I don't know if you guys have a chance to see Sharp Objects, but it's awesome, and the way he films that, it's so immersive. And I heard a talk with him, and he had a 360 set. That was so he it's just like there's something about the way he tells the story. It's so, yeah. Anyways, something I aspire to. So
I love it. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen what the virtual sets that they're using to shoot The Mandalorian with. Again, whole nother panel. We could do this really. We only have a few minutes left, but I want to ask you all two more questions, and I'm going to give you a chance to think about the first one which will be the last one. I want you to tell the audience the reason they need to watch your film if they haven't already. So that's going to be our last question. But before that, I want to talk about just women in directing in general. I feel like there is this idea that women, every time they step into the director's position, that they have to succeed. And I feel like then puts up this mental block, like I better make a good film or I'm never going to make anything again, which is something that, men don't deal with. They don't have to say, I'm going to make this film about a shark and a tornado. And then we're going to make it 7 more times. So talk about a little bit, how, when you are taking on a project or deciding a project, how much does the pressure of the idea of failure, just in general in your work, how does it weigh on you? Does it weigh on you? Just because that we want to encourage more young women to step up and do it, even if it's, bad, honestly, like let them make bad films. So how do you come to the courage? Gina, I want to start with you because you did what we tell young women to do, is like, okay, if you want to make a film, just go make a film. So how did you just say, I'm going to do it?
Wow. I think that it was just something in me that I was just like, I am not going to feel satisfied until I do this. And of course, now I want to make more and more. I've got my taste of blood and all that. So it's just like, I'm insatiable. But I think, Yeah, I think that I had to just tell myself, like, it can be imperfect, you can mess up, and just giving myself the space to mess up. And I think that's why I saved the money myself, and I saved the amount that I did. And I figured, nobody's going to give me the chance to mess up. And I learn by doing. I'm a kinetic learner. I have to make mistakes, like a lot of people. And so I was just like, yeah, let me essentially buy myself the space and time to mess up if I'm going to mess up. And if I do, it's fine. I will have learned a lot, and this is not going to be my last film that I make. And I just told myself that. And, again, coming at it from a learning perspective also. And I do feel like I learned so much. And that's the thing about film too, is that, you can sit in the classroom and, talk film all day. You can read about it, you can write about it, but there is nothing that will be, a real substitution for actually going out and making movies. There's just no other way. And so I just kind of realized I had to give myself the chance to do it. And I told myself, yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not perfect, but I will learn, and then I'll bring that information and that experience, knowledge forward. And I think so, like, kind of viewing it long term. And I definitely think that people, especially women, have to carve out this space for themselves. It's not going to be given to us. Nobody's going to give me a chance. So you have to give yourself that chance. And I think that's how I brought that spirit of endurance to this whole thing. It's just like, I'm doing this for the chance.
That's great. And Virginia.
I was going to say, the first film that I made was a short film. I hated it so much, I couldn't look at it for 2 years. So there's no other way, I think, to learn than to actually go out there and do stuff and make mistakes and learn. Lucky for us here in Canada, we have some arts councils and things like that. That's how I was making my short films. So I'd make one, or there's the National Film Board. There's a few different ways of getting a little bit of funding together to you're always working for free and everything else, and getting all these favors. And that's also part of the nice thing about the film industry here, is that you're like, oh, I'm making an indie, and oh, okay, fine, take the gear on the weekend. And there's a lot of generosity too, but the thing is, I think it if you're determined, if you're like, I want to do this, you can start making films. You can and way easier now than where my first 2 films were shot on film, right? They had to be, I actually had to, I shot them on short ends because my friend was a camera assistant, right? That's a whole other world now. You don't have to worry about, it's so much more accessible. So if you make films and start telling stories, start working with people and figuring out, okay, this is working, this isn't working. I think you can go on a film set and be a producer's assistant or a direct, you could be on a professional film set without necessarily even being in the union. There's so many things you can do to learn the process, and I think the practical process of how it's actually made. And then what I loved, Karen said something. She said, I saw what all the mistakes other people were making, because I AD'd for a long time, and I saw crap on set, and I was like, this is what I'm going to learn a lesson today, because I'm not going to take the props and throw them across the room and smash them. Okay. Things like that. I'm going to control my temper a little bit better. So there's no, I think I had to fight to make this film. I had to do a lot of things. And I don't know necessarily, maybe if I was a guy, if I would have been doing this earlier, even the fact that, I had to take time out for kids. There's so many other things that had to that happen in my life, and but I think it's important that we carve the space out for ourselves and make stuff, like you said, like even if it's bad, do it and learn from that mistake, and then be like, okay, well, next time I'm gonna do it better, and don't be afraid to put yourself, yeah, because I think that's the other thing is like when you create something, right, you're putting like yourself out there, and then people are like, oh, that really, that sucks, or I didn't like this part, and you're like, oh, they don't like, no, it's not like, yeah, it's not about you, don't, it's, so that's part of it is you have to build a little bit of a shell of a strong skin and be like, okay, well, not everyone's gonna like my stuff as well, which happens, or anyway, so yeah, so that's what I gotta say. Okay.
I could listen to you talk all day, Virginia. Really good. Karen, tell us.
I really liked what Gina said about giving yourself permission to fail. It's really important to do that, because if we're artists, sometimes doing the safe thing is the guaranteed thing. So it means that we're not pushing ourselves as directors, as storytellers, or anything if you know it's going to work. You know what I mean? Like you really do have to give yourself permission to, this might not work, because we're not doing our industry and filmmaking any justice if we're only doing the safe, accepted way of telling our stories. There's no point in us being here if we're only going to do what everyone else has just done. Like, what's the point of us actually contributing our own voices in it if there isn't that? And that means that giving yourself that permission to fail because you've taken a chance. That is not like, the industry might be all saying, this is what we all want. Like if you go to these markets, they're like, this is what's selling. We want zombies that do blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, and you go home and dutifully like give them what they say they want. And to me, that's not where innovation happens. That's not where storytelling happens. I would rather see a failure with heart than a really polished, nothing. And we've seen a lot of polished nothings. Like, we all work in this industry. It's like, wow, you spent a lot of money and that's another big piece of nada, right? And so I think it's really important to say that if you're going to do it, again, I would rather see these garage sort of like, films that basically they threw their hearts into, and it's done with a shoestring, but there's so much creativity and imagination, and be weird, like just go there. Don't do that safe thing. But we get caught up in that storyline of the, and I don't know if it's a woman, like a female thing where you're like, I want that gold star. It could be an Asian thing, sorry. Like, gold star, like first in the class. Like, that is not how we're gauged. You know what I mean? Like, storytelling and filmmaking and being a real artist and embracing that part of you means that you have to take chances, and that means you might fall flat on your face. And actually, those are the more important things. But the biggest problem we have as women is that they don't let us fall on our faces. They're like, well, you screwed up, so therefore none of you can direct. And it's like, no, we should be allowed to screw up as well. Like if you see people, it's like, and I was really lucky because my first feature film sucked ass. And so I can say that quite comfortably. Like, it was no good. But it was because I was really safe with it. My first short film that I did really well, and I was terrified to go off script. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, these things worked. And I held it with basically a vice to say, like, this is how I need to direct my feature too, because it worked in my short. And actually that failure was really freeing, because I never felt like I wanted to stay in that mold again. Like that first feature did not work well. That means actually I've already face planted. What else can I do? You know what I mean? And so once you face planted and it doesn't hurt as bad as you thought it would, yeah, it's a little humiliating. You get a couple of like really cruddy, like reviews and that sort of stuff. And you're just like, dust yourself off. You get the tweet from some guy in Texas saying your film sucks. And you're like, yeah, well, you suck too. So, you get that. And once you realize, well, that didn't hurt, you know what I mean? Like, it's, you dust yourself off and off you go again. And it's about getting back in the saddle and, just survival of the cockroaches and Cher and us.
Twinkies, cockroaches, Cher. We're good. We're weird. I love it. If we were to make a t-shirt for this conversation, it would say be weird. And I'm okay with that. So, all right. Before we wrap up, why does somebody want to sit down in front of your film during this pandemic and not binge watch something else on Netflix right now? Gina.
Okay, thanks for giving me some time to think about this. So I think this film is really interesting, and it's really close to my heart because I can't sleep while it's sci-fi, while it's dramas, all that. It's really deep down a film about trauma and mental health. That's one of the areas that I focus on in that track of my life, and I've had a lot of experience treating it. I've had wonderful training and stuff. I've been really lucky, and I've had my own trauma in my life, and I think that we can all kind of recognize. It's interesting. About 10 years ago, I feel like people were talking about trauma, but now they're talking about it a ton more. I was just saying that to my friend the other day, and just like, I think it's about the power of how, finding one person that you can trust to kind of let in about your story, who can bear witness to your pain and who can kind of, validate you and, validate your experience, can be really healing. And I think with the pandemic and everything happening right now in the world, it's crazy. I think just kind of going back to that simple story of how, finding somebody that you can have that positive connection with, and then, you can heal from that, you can grow and move forward. And I think that's a story and a narrative arc that a lot of people could maybe vibe with right now in particular. So yeah, I can't sleep. Thanks.
Can't sleep. Virginia.
Hi. So Between Waves is about this woman who is trying to remember what, her partner goes missing, and she's trying to remember what happened to him, but also he starts to visit her from a parallel dimension, asking her to join him. You never really know if it's happening in her head or if and she actually starts to go into these parallel dimensions. So it's kind of, it's a fantasy, but it's also a healing story, because she does come in the end and is healed with the island and going to the island. But I think it's beautiful film. It's really beautifully shot. I think the performance that the lead performer gives, Fiona Graham, is just breathtaking. It's really awesome. It's a story that I have wanted to tell for a very, very long time. And then just it's I don't know. It is very original. So it's not, and with a very surprising ending. So it's not something you will see, I think, typically with either the visuals, the way it's shot, and the story and the way it unfolds. Okay. I'm not very good at pitching. I'm not very good at promoting my own stuff, which is bad. Such a female thing, right? I'm like, oh God, yeah, please watch my film. But yeah, no, it's fun. I think it's fun. It's a thriller. It's got a thriller element. It's got this, I think, a lovely love story, all kind of wrapped up and then
moments between the waves.
Between the waves, yeah.
Waves. Really love it.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Virginia. And Karen.
Yeah, I think I accidentally made a pandemic movie, and it was done before the pandemic. So there is insomnia, there are nightmares, there is isolation, there is systemic white racism, there is it's funny because when I wrote the original story, it was actually based on a documentary that I had. I was actually in Portland filming female inmate firefighters. So I actually, the main character actually stems from some of these interviews that I was doing with these young women who are about to go on parole and get back into the real world and what that was going to be. And so the heart and bones of it has social justice to it for sure, but ultimately it's a ghost story between dimensions, and you never know if you've got some special skills that you didn't know about that are beyond welding, which is where she starts. She's a welder, but you might have other skills.
Absolutely. I think all of you ladies are very skilled and your films are wonderful. So just everybody, Karen Lamb, the director of The Curse of the Willow Song, Gina Rose, writer and director of I Can't Sleep, and Virginia, I'm going to butcher it, I'm sorry, Abramovich. Sorry, say it again for me, Virginia.
Abramovich, but very close. Yeah.
Okay, Abramovich. All right, I'm going to take two. Virginia Abramovich, director of Between Waves. You can see them all at the Boston Sci-Fi Festival. Ladies, thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to, gosh, I could have talked to you for a long time, but I can't wait to see what you do in the future after these films.